You know, it's hard to pick the best line from The Godfather, but one of the classic moments has got to be Michael telling Fredo, "Don't take sides with anyone against the family again, ever." It's risky to go against the family. So it is curious that in Steve Bannon's ongoing efforts to save his job in the Trump White House, he appears to be at odds with Trump aides who almost certainly cannot be fired. The family. Bannon has taken to deriding Jared Kushner and other aides as, quote, Democrats, a term they would take issue with while serving in such a bright red administration. And now new headlines suggesting those Democrats might actually be winning. The Hill reporting on a stealth caucus gaining ground inside the Trump White House, citing the ascendance of those supposed Democrats like Kushner, Ivanka, and two former Goldman Sachs executives, Gary Cohn and Deputy National Security Advisor Dina Powell. These Democrats' gains is seen as the loss for a hardcore Trump followers, people like, yes, Steve Bannon, Kellyanne Conway, Steve Miller, and even Reince Priebus, who's sort of up in the middle. Now, is this all just rumors and sniping? Even longtime Trump advisor Roger Stone gave this whole split some credence. Now, he doesn't go so far as to label those moderates Democrats, but he does say they are doing well and they are establishment Republicans.
He has, for whatever reason, chosen to surround himself with a number of establishment Republicans who I don't think really understand Trumpism, don't understand the larger currents that got him elected.
And we are back for the political panel. Betsy Woodruff, David Horsey. Also with us, Charlie Pierce, writer-at-large for Esquire magazine. Charlie, what do you make of this and Roger Stone giving, as I said, some support to the theory out there that there is some ground being lost?
Yeah, whole thing is like somebody took the script for Game of Thrones and mixed in a few pages from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Now, I'm finished trying to figure out the ins and outs. Look, all White Houses are crazy in their own way. But this one is, I mean, you don't know from one minute to another whether or not the presidency is a slave to the brand or the other way around.
Well, and Betsy, it also goes to who is trusted in a system where there isn't a clear ideology. Roger, they're talking about, quote, Trumpism. But unlike Goldwater or Reagan, you know, I don't know that there's a ton of policy content undergirding it. So what else is it about if not relationships?
That's certainly a good question, and I think the major planks of Trumpism as a policy have largely been jettisoned, with just a few key exceptions. The fact that Trump just has made so much warm overtures to the president of China, the fact that he won't be labeling China a currency manipulator, even though that was one of his core campaign promises, that was a definitive issue for him. That's a huge deal. That's Trump abandoning something he talked about at basically every single rally on the campaign trail. And I think what's happened is that Jeff Sessions is sort of carrying the flame for Trumpism, and that's happening down the street from the Capitol over at the Justice Department. He is sort of hewed very closely to the Trumpist ideology of how it should work, while the rest of the White House seems to be largely jettisoning it.
Right, and he's definitely trying to put some policy or legal content on that so-called law and order effort, which we're actually covering a little later in the show. David, on the politics here, you also have Steve Bannon as someone who has independent political and media power, which makes him different than other aides and advisors. Breitbart was doing Trump before Trump. Here's Lee Stranahan, a former Breitbart reporter, talking about the real risk if Bannon is either sidelined or fired, and what it looks like to a base that loves Breitbart.
His approval rating's at about 40 right now. If he kicks Steve Bannon out of this White House, and I'm not even going to argue policy, I'm just going to say realistically, if he kicks Steve Bannon out of the White House, if Gary Cohn and Dina Powell continue to ascend, he's going to go down to about 20%, because he's going to lose at least, I would say, half the base.
Well, if there's one thing Trump doesn't mind is a fight. And I think overriding whatever might happen with if Bannon leaves is that to Trumpism is him. It is whatever he says. And, you know, he's a man focused on himself in so many ways. But second in importance to him is family. And family is, you know, he grew up running in a family business. That's really how he understands the world, how he knows how to run things. And so the only guy you know is going to be around for a while is Jared Kushner. Bannon is expendable if he is not going to play along with the president. And I think Stephen Miller has figured that out and has shifted his chips on the table over to the Kushner side.
Charlie, there's also reporting that Steve Bannon's press ascendance, which we're all partly responsible for, I suppose, angered Trump as well, that he doesn't want people who compete with him as part of the headline or the intrigue.
I don't particularly want a president who cares about that kind of stuff. And the fact that we're discussing at the presidential level people like Steve Bannon and Roger Stone is truly terrifying. This is like hiring a couple of kids with spray paint to run the Guggenheim. How did we get to a point where these are people we're talking seriously about at this level of government? So no, I mean, I think that, you know, no celebrity likes to be out-celebritied. But I think it's a little bit disproportionate for the President of the United States to be worrying about whether or not somebody calls Steve Bannon President Bannon on a blog somewhere.
Right. Not to diminish the role of blogs in civic society. I know you write one for Esquire,
yes.
But I think you raise an important point. And when you talk about the family winning, it's worth keeping in mind that these are all positions Trump's taking that are literally illegal. If he tried to put any of these family members in the cabinet or in other positions, Congress banned all that under force of federal law, and it's only this weird loophole they say they have in the advisor category. So that's how out of the legal mainstream we are, for sure. Charlie Pierce, Betsy Woodruff, David Horsey, thank you for being on with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.